stories about Lewiston were converted. I have so many, I am tempted to tell you 30 minutes worth of stories about Lewiston because
I could tell you more than 30 minutes worth of stories from Lewiston, including how Kris Vallotton and his family got chased out of Lewiston. These people are Luciferians. They keep telling stories about themselves and not reading the scriptures to you out loud. Listen to this.
Tell you is that after that, we were there for 5 years, and I learned in Lewiston, in that little town of 900, that even in that there's a war over who gets to shape history. The challenge that I see,
there's a war over who gets to shape history. The things that Kris sees, he just brought that up. He's not reading his scriptures. He's telling you the thoughts from his own vain imagination. This is this week's Bethel Austin presentation live right now. Don't fall for it, guys.
Is that we are often trying to solve a second heaven battle with a first heaven solution. And when we do that, we hope some politician's going to change the world for us. Well, if I just got my right guy in there, that would do it.
A second heaven solution for a first heaven problem. Well, the second heaven, he just said, is where the demons are at, and he just said that the demons are going to be the ones to be able to make the resolution for the politicians. He just told you the demons control the politicians.
I see is that we are often trying to solve a second heaven battle with a first heaven solution. And when we do that, we hope some politician's going to change the world for us. Well, if I just got my right guy in there, that would do it. And I learned in Lewiston, in that little town of 900, that even in that little town of 900 people, that there was a prince over that area that held that city, that little town, captive.
Now, while Kris was up there for the 5 years, is when he was having his schizophrenic episodes, and when he hosted one of the Anton LaVey, one of the satanic coven people from down by like Michael Aquino and those people down in San Francisco that were doing all this stuff, where Kris's family came from, where Kris says that his mom was prayed over by one of the satanic members, and that the satanic member told him that or told Kris's mom that she was going to have 5 husbands and 4 of them would die, and then all of her husbands died, including his dad, died in Anderson Reservoir something. I don't remember what it's called. Yeah, Anderson Reservoir. So, Kris, at the time that he's in Weaverville, is having schizophrenic episodes. He's telling you that there were powers over Lewiston. 1 second, I'll go get you the schizophrenic episodes. Let's see if we can get back to this spot.
900, that even in that little town of 900 people, that there was a prince over that area that held that city, that little town, captive for decades. And by the way, what I didn't tell you is that after that, we were there for 5 years. It completely transformed that city, that little town. They took where the field was, they redid that. They made it a ball field. The drug addicts, many of them were converted.
Many of the drug addicts were converted.
I have so many, I am tempted to tell you 30 minutes worth of stories about Lewiston, because the drug addicts and the pushers came to Lewiston, and we only had 6 weeks of a regular program, and so and there was so much violence in there. They bring their guns, they bring their knives, and the very first.
Okay. Everybody around here is a hunter, including Chris's wife, who does all the murders for Kris, according to Chris's own testimony. I have my killers. I don't kill things myself. When he was giving his testimony at his house. Everybody in this group are hunters. Kris has no problem with everybody in Lewiston. You guys have to remember, all the way up until the 90s, people that were driving to school could still have their shotguns in the back window of their cars. Kris is talking about back in the 80s and 90s. And he's talking about that these people brought their guns and their knives with them.
6 weeks of a regular program. And so, and there was so much violence in there. They bring their guns, they bring their knives. It was, and the very first, on the way to the very first session, or the very first night, I'm driving there. I am sick to my stomach. I'm so scared. My family's with me. Kathy baked cookies. Like, maybe we can feed the monsters and they won't eat us.
Kris is the monster.
And we have them. So we play basketball and volleyball, and then at halftime, 30-minute halftime, we have a 30-minute halftime, and we're not allowed to preach to them under the probation department, like when we worked with the probation department. So
probation is allowing you to have people in your possession? Holy wow. Do you guys know who Kris Vallotton is?
Said, my friend's not a Christian. The probation officer is not a Christian. So he said, Kris, I want you to help these kids, but don't Bible bang them. That was his way of saying, don't preach the gospel to them. So they're sitting on a bench. The very first night, there was only 37 of them. I said 120. That was like 3 weeks later. And there's 37 of them. These kids are all on probation. They're the worst of the worst. I've already broke up 5 fights, like literally by tackling them.
Kris is making himself into the narcissistic hero again. I broke up 5 fights, and I was tackling them? No, Kris, you are a pansy. I've watched you start crying at the drop of nothing. You are an actual female, the way that you handle things in real life. You attacked somebody, good luck, sucker. Never happened. You are such a narcissistic liar. If you guys go and look up how narcissism works, there's a roadmap that these people always go back to the roadmap. If they're acting in one specific way, they will always take you back to that specific narcissistic way. Me, I, me, I, me, I.
And, there's weapons. It's just crazy. I'm sick. I get them sitting on the bench. They're sitting on park benches inside the gym. And I start telling the story that I got on the way to the gym. Like, literally, I got a download in 20 seconds. Actually, if you've ever read the book, Moral Revolution, that came to me in a few seconds. So I thought, well,
the entire book, Moral Revolution, that's the one that we covered yesterday with the owl video. That entire book came to Kris Vallotton in 20 seconds as an instant download.
Talk to him about sexual. Like, literally, I got a download in 20 seconds. Actually, if you've ever in them, and there's weapons. It's just crazy. I'm sick. I get them sitting on the bench. They're sitting on park benches inside the gym, and I start telling the story.
Wait a minute. So these kids that are carrying weapons are on probation, according to Kris. There is no way in the world that probation's going to give Kris 137 or whatever he says in a second. 100 plus kids who are bringing weapons, who are on probation and being left in Kris's custody as a church pastor.
That I got. These kids are all on probation. They're the worst of the worst. I've already broke up 5 fights, like literally by tackling them. And there's weapons. It's just crazy. I'm sick. I get them sitting on the bench. They're sitting on park benches inside the gym. And I start telling the story that I got on the way to the gym. Like literally, I got a download in 20 seconds. Actually, if you've ever read the book More Revolution, that came to me in a few seconds. So I thought, well, I'm going to talk to him about sexual purity. Yeah, you might as well go for it. I mean, everybody.
See Chris's Freemason hand sign right here? And he's talking about sexual purity. And he's got his interlaced fingers, but Freemasonry is a sex cult. And everybody started laughing when Kris started talking about sexual purity, because the sex cult that this Bethel group includes several of the people in the front row knowing each other intimately.
When you're that age, so I thought, well, I'm going to talk to him about sexual purity. Yeah, you might as well go for it. I mean, everybody, when you're that age, cares about sex. I mean, so I'm starting to tell this story, and I get this story about this guy who, well, it's just a very long story, but it's a guy who buys a ring for the woman of his dreams. He takes it through Vietnam, almost dies in Vietnam trying to save his ring, and then he finds the woman of his dreams, marries her, and
2 Timothy 4, verse 3. For there shall be a time when they shall not bear sound teaching, but according to their own desires they shall heap up for themselves teachers, tickling the ear, and they shall indeed turn their ears away from the truth. Remember, Scripture says, my word is truth, so Yeshua's word is truth. So Scripture, and be turned aside to myths. That would be all the stories that Kris is telling out of his own vain imagination. But you, be sober in all matters. Suffer hardships. Do the work of an evangelist. Accomplish your service completely. For I am already being poured out, and the time of my departure has arrived. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have guarded the belief. For the rest, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Master, the righteous judge, shall give to me on that day, and not to me only, but also to those loving his appearing. Do your best to come to me soon. For Demas, having loved this present world, has deserted me and went to Thessalonica, Crescents, to Galatia, Titus, to Dalmatia. Luke alone is with me. Take Mark and bring him with you, for he is of good use to me for service. Okay, so For there shall be a time when they shall not bear sound teachings, but according to their own desires, they shall heap up for themselves teachers, tickling their ears, and they shall indeed turn their ears away from the truth of Scripture and be turned aside to the myths of Kris Vallotton's schizophrenia. Kris Vallotton, schizophrenic. Kris Vallotton is a DSM-5 certified schizophrenic. If you want to see the video about the Anton LaVey student being at Kris's house when all the pictures were being knocked off the walls, that would be this one. And I have another one that's just him saying that pretty close to the very, very first of the videos that I was posting. It's probably in the very first 20 or 30 videos, but we're closing in on 300-ish. No, we're at 240, I think. Yeah, I think we're around 240 videos or something. So you'd have to scroll down for a long way, but Kris Vallotton is a DSM-5 certified schizophrenic. He's just telling you made up stories and then taking your church offerings and putting them in his pockets, and everybody else who has a 501c3 nonprofit, they're all Freemasons who are making money off the Christians. That money that's being donated should be going to paying for the widows and the orphans, taking care of the poor. That has nothing to do with these guys paying themselves to have the entire family under one financial umbrella. Get it? The Freemasons are just paying themselves for being smarter than the Christians because they know the Christians won't read their Bibles. Love you guys. Shabbat Shalom.
Years back, they would have given you electroshock therapy or worse than that, a lobotomy, or worse than...
The Spirit clearly says that in latter times, some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachers come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. Let's look at this verse for a second. In latter times, before the New Apostolic Reformation was the New Apostolic Reformation, they were the latter rain movement. They will abandon the faith. They will not be talking about Yeshua HaMashiach. They will be talking about the signs and wonders that they're experiencing. They will follow the spirits and things taught by demons. The teachings of demons are the Kabbalah. The New Apostolic Reformation, grave soaking is Kabbalah. Christ alignment tarot cards is Kabbalah. Enneagram taught by Bethel is Kabbalah. What else? What have I?
Kris Vallotton teaching that God is male and female is Kabbalah. 32nd degree Freemasons, the Templars, when they're getting knighted at BSSM, is Kabbalah. Anything in Deuteronomy 18:10 through 12, those things that are listed as abominations, those are all found inside the Kabbalah. So, Christ alignment tarot cards, grave soaking. I've got a video that's called Bethel's Abominations. The whole list is, well, not the whole list. I think there's 78 abominations listed in Scripture. I think I only found like 10 or 12 of them that Bethel was doing. So, stay away from Bethel. They're evil. Actual evil. Don't call good evil and evil good. When they're teaching Kabbalah, the doctrine of the fallen angels, it's very easy to be able to call evil by its name. Bill Johnson and Kris Vallotton are evil.
I missed. Everything from Deuteronomy 18 is Kabbalah. The stuff that says don't do it, it's an abomination, it's from Kabbalah. Whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. The people who have their conscience seared as with a hot iron, that's the transorbital lobotomy that happens when people are schizophrenic. Keep that in mind. We're going to cover that in this video.
See, can you imagine if I walk into a mental health center and I say, hey, this is what's happening to me, and I'm soaked sweat, I'm shaking like a leaf. What are they going to do?
A few years back, they would have given you electroshock therapy or worse than that, a lobotomy, or worse than that, the drugs that make you a zombie. Tell you what, let's hold that thought. We'll be right back after this.
If you'd let me pierce your brain with a hot needle in the right place, you'd be happy all the time.